cool room. Where are you at?
Well, this is the House of Vibes.
Okay, tell me about the House of Vibes.
Yeah, this is our recording studio.
Cool.
Where all the Gripweeds records come from.
Excellent, excellent. It looks like fun. So
It is.
I assume the tracks for Dig were recorded there.
Yep, pretty much. We have a couple of other locations. We have a studio, a smaller studio in upstate New York State.
Yep,
and
upstate where?
Close to Lake Placid, way up north by the Canadian border.
That is up there. I'm from Rochester myself, so that's why I asked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't hear a trace of a New Zealand accent, so I was wondering.
No, there is no accent here. I've been here since '94, and it's no accent sneaking out of me.
You're just not.
It's the American accent I found is extremely durable. It just doesn't go anywhere. Whereas the Kiwi accent is kind of a morphing thing. It kind of adapts to its environment. So there you go. Have you been to New Zealand?
Never. No, I'd love to. It's a long flight. I know
it is indeed. Yeah, exactly. Now, before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of this, I had to ask you, being from Rochester, I'm buddies with guys in a band called the Chesterfield Kings, and I was wondering if you were familiar with them.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
they came up a little bit before we did.
Right. Yeah. They were part of the Paisley Underground, supposedly, but really they were just.
We all know each other. Yeah, I mean, we know who we are.
There you go.
We actually Andy from the bass player from the band. He really great music store in Rochester.
The House of Guitars.
No, it's not. It's called Fab Gear.
Oh, Fab Gear. Okay, because that's his book that he's done. Yeah.
And we bought a bunch of things from there, Rickenbacker bass and stuff like that. All the cool stuff.
Well, we all worked together at a place called the Great House of Guitars back in the 70s. So Andy and Greg and me and everybody who was crazy enough to want to be around records all the time.
Actually, we did an in-store in House of Guitars.
Very cool.
4 years ago, maybe less.
So this album is obviously kind of your tribute to the Nuggets thing, which is a way that people like me have found out about these songs, because we didn't hear them on the radio back in the day, or very few of them actually made it to the top of the charts. So how did you find out about these songs?
Well, they were, as you just said, they were like buried treasure for us. And we found out about them from the older guys. And the thing was, when you went to try to find these things, they were out of print. The music industry has long moved on to other types. And so it was like a treasure hunt, going to a garage sale or a flea market and finding cool stuff and going, wow, look what I just got, And that's part of the reason why we call the album Dig. One of the reasons is because we were digging for treasure, and you could call it nuggets. We were digging for nuggets back then.
Gotcha. Yep.
That inspired us to be a band.
Very cool. So was there a sound, a feel, a vibe of some of these? What attracted you to say something by the Chocolate Watch Band as opposed to the Mamas and the Papas?
Well, you mean back then or for this album?
Well, either one. Take your pick. But back then first. Yeah.
Then I think really, the Beatles were the prime mover or driver for everything.
Right.
But we didn't feel that we could take on their music. They were the kings up here and we're down here. So we thought if we found enough obscure music, like off songs by the Zombies and B-sides by the Hollies,
right,
and stuff like that, and then all these garage nuggets by one-hit wonders, we could kind of get away with it. And maybe people who saw us live would even think we wrote them.
Very good idea. Now, of course, the guy who put together the original Nuggets album is Lenny Kaye, and you got him to write some notes on this. So how did that happen?
Well, Lenny Kaye is a Jersey boy. He's from New Jersey. And we did kind of cast about with the head of our label is Marty Scott. And between us, we said, who's going to write the liner notes? And we, threw out some names and stuff. And his was the one that stuck because he did the original Nuggets album. He curated that.
Yep.
And he's from New Jersey. So he could write in his liner notes, he writes about, driving down Raritan Avenue, right outside New Brunswick, and, going over the river, the Raritan River. And that's all like places that are literally just outside this room.
Right.
So that made a lot of sense to us. And him being, him having curated Nuggets, I felt, and Marty felt, gave the album a little bit more gravitas.
Sure.
Because of that.
Yeah. Now it's interesting. You mentioned Jersey quite a bit. So my experience is that every kind of area has its own kind of obscure Nuggets bands that those in the know about. Like for Rochester, there was a band called the Invictas, and there was the Rustics, and stuff like that. But who are those bands in New Jersey area?
Oh, you mean the bands from the 60s?
Yeah.
Well, we covered one of them on Dig.
Okay.
The Knickerbockers.
Oh, the Knickerbockers. Yeah.
Lies, you're telling me that you'll be true. Lies, that's all I ever hear from you. Tears, I shed a million tears for you. Tears, and now you're loving someone new. Someday you're gonna be happy, but I don't know when just now. Lies, breaking my heart.
That's a band to us that was exactly, fits the bill of what you're talking about. And the reason they're significant to us is because my brother and I, who's in the band, Rick is my brother, and we grew up in North Jersey, one street away from Knickerbocker Avenue, which is where the got their name. They lived on Knickerbocker Avenue.
Very cool.
It made sense for us to cover it, and that's how it happened.
That Lies is like the most Beatley non-Beatle record ever made, I think. So
Yeah.
So when you go to cover a song like that those in the know about, do you have to try and take your own take on it, or recreate it faithfully? What's your way of looking at it?
We're not really that interested in faithful recreations, because we have a back catalog of our own original music.
Right.
And maybe in the early days when we first started and we were finding our sound, we were more apt to try to faithfulally recreate something. But now I think the whole hook of this album for us, having done these songs when we first started like decades ago, coming back to them with years of experience and 7 albums of original material, was to kind of take these songs and make them our own. Right. And kind of through our systems, our hands, and put them through and see what happens, how they change, and what we do to them now to bring them into the 21st century, make them new again. And so that was really more important to us than recreating. We were trying to refresh more than recreate.
Gotcha. Now, I mentioned that a lot of these songs are very obscure and barely scrape the charts, but a few of the bands that we like Paul Revere and the Raiders, actually did do very well in the charts and had TV shows. And I know, I think I read somewhere you guys toured or backed up Mark Lindsay. Is that true?
Yeah, we did quite a few shows with him a few years ago, and I think he's kind of stepping down.
Well, nobody's getting any younger. Let's put it that way.
No one's getting any younger, but we had a ride. We had quite a ride with Mark, and I did especially because at this studio, the House of Vibes, I'm the producer and engineer. And we brought Mark in. I had worked with Mark years ago as a drummer. And then Mark came into the studio because we had written a song for him to sing on our Christmas album called The Influence of Christmas. We had this song that we wrote, and we're like, I really hear that guy on Hungry coming to sing. And come on, man. And idea. And we contacted him because I had worked with him. And he was like, great, I'd love to. And he loved the song. He did a great job. And then he said, I kind of like your studio. What do you got going on there? And so he came in, and we wound up doing several projects with him. We worked together really like next to each other, right at the console. And so here I am, learning all the secrets from this guy who walked the streets of Sunset Strip back in '67. He knew all of what we were trying to do. And he was all there. And he was telling me, oh, you do this with the echo, and here's how you put this together. It was like on the job training for me. And then he was looking for a band to do a bunch of casino gigs and various festivals and things. And he said, would the Gripweeds like to do it? And we're like, sure. So that's what happened there. And we learned his whole back catalog, or a good chunk of it, and we were pulling out songs that weren't on his list. We're saying, Mark, you got to do Louie Go Home. Right. It's so cool. And he's like, I don't know. People don't know that one. We're like, no, it's really great. So we kind of like made him do it, and that's how we kind of learned it. We just like put that song over as a band live. So when we came to put this collection together, I specifically was looking for a song that Mark wrote. Right. That he could do well.
Well, I left my wife and child in my brain. Its hate is about to drive me wild. A little voice inside my head goes on and on. So Louie, you better come back home.
A lot of these songs are the songs that are slightly under the radar for us. It's not like we're doing I Want to Hold Your Hand. Right. We're not Kicks. We're doing Louie Go Home. So you got to be a little more in the know. And maybe those people that aren't that savvy are going to go, well, I just really like this song. Yeah. That's kind of the idea. And definitely a nod to Mark Lindsay.
Yeah. I mean, the song is kind of the thing. When you get right down to it, these songs are actually really great songs. One that's associated with Paul Revere and the Raiders is Shapes of Things to Come. I've got it on this album I bought when I was like 15, There's
a new sun rising up angry in the sky, and there's a new voice crying but not afraid to die. Let the old world make believe it's blind and deaf and dumb, but nothing can change the shape of things to come.
Shape of Things to Come was in a movie called Wild in the Streets. And on the record, it's by Max Frost and the Troopers.
That's right, Max Frost and the Troopers, on Tower Records.
Those guys the story is that they were trying to kind of do a Mark Lindsay guy. Right. In character, Max Frost. And I don't know, maybe that's why we were drawn to that song. But that was literally the first song the Gripweeds ever played and recorded when we first started, because of its, because it was a nugget and people wouldn't know it. Right. That was a prime choice for us. In fact, we did a radio show, the very first radio show we ever did in New Brunswick on Rutgers Radio. We were as green as Gripweeds could be. And go on the radio, and the guy's like, so what do you got here? Let's play a song and we'll find out all about you. And say, yeah, this is Shape of Things to Come. And we didn't say we wrote it, but it was an unwritten rule on the station that you went in there with your own material. Gotcha. And we didn't. So we kind of bumped it out, and he called us on it. He knew. So that was that's what it was like in those days for us.
Very cool. Very cool. So is it you who makes the choices, the song choices for this record, or is it the band thing, or how do you guys work?
No, it's a band. I mean, there's four of us. We all kind of chipped in stuff, and it's funny because nothing really flies unless everybody's committed to it. If somebody's a little lukewarm on a song, you don't get the best performance, or they're just not that into it. We were kind of looking for the positive energy, and we were looking for those songs that would hit that button within the band to get that performance and capture that chemistry of the group. And so that's really what dictated this. And we all had choices on this album. So, it was it's a group effort, even though I do a lot of the production and the engineering, it's still produced. And, so there's a lot of, it is a group to this day.
And your wife is in the group, and it's kind of interesting to have a female, because let's face it, back then it was a very male oriented thing. You could count on one finger, I think, the amount of females that were in any of these bands. So how does that change things or make things different?
Well, it's a huge effect, really, for a lot of reasons. First, because she's my wife.
Right.
That right there, it's having an ally and my best friend, along with my brother, in the group. So it's a very strong familial thing.
Yep.
But she's such a great lead guitar player, and most of the leads are hers probably on. There's several of Rick's too. They share the lead guitar work, but you'd have a hard time saying, "Oh, that's the girl playing that," because she is so inventive and creative with her guitar that it's not a factor. Gender is not a factor in her playing. She's just flat out great.
Yep.
And that was a kind of originally, as I said early on, we were taking our cues from the Fab Four and the pre-Fab Four.
Right. Yep.
We were trying to be the four swinging guys playing in a band, writing our stuff, and long hair and Beatle boots. And that's what we started out as. And Kristen came along to replace our first guitar player, and it was a little fork in the road because she was not the four swinging guys. It was like, well, it's time for us to find our own way now.
Yep.
And as soon as we did and brought her in, she changed our sound, and the whole chemistry of the band altered. And that's when we put out our first album, and that's when we became a real band.
Cool. All right. Now there's a track called "Making Time" on and with a little kind of chatter in the front of it about something about its sound movie or something. What's going on there? Tell me.
Yeah, we thought of it as like an audio movie, a sound movie. And the reason really that's there is originally we were going to do links between each song. I don't have the deluxe version of the album there.
I don't have a physical copy yet. I've just been listening to it on digital.
Yeah, there's a CD version of the album, and there's a song, Dig Theme, on there. And Dig Theme that I wrote that was supposed to be a link between two songs, and it just didn't work out because of the way we sequenced the album. But that the opening of Making Time has a lot of significance because this album was recorded during the pandemic when we were locked in, right, and dug in.
Yes, so to speak.
Yeah, and so we were kind of dreaming about what it was like. You're on the street, you're looking for something to do, you hear a guitar coming from a club, you go to the club, you open the door, there's people inside having beers and chatting and whatever, and you hear a band in the basement, you got to run down there and open the door, and bam, there's the Gripweeds playing.
Yep.
So it was like this dream to us, and it felt surreal in a pandemic. It was almost like, well, are we ever going to do this again? That's started to feel like. And luckily that's hopefully we're getting through this now. And we did play a show recently.
Yep.
And it was
in New York City, was it like an album release show?
We did a record release show in New York City, and it was literally just like that sound movie. So I was so happy.
So does it feel different being out there on a stage now, post-pandemic or whatever?
Feels better.
Yep.
It feels better because it's almost like you had something taken away.
Right.
And we've done shows since we were, teenagers. And, so to be able to go back to doing that again, something that we've done our whole lives, was really, really satisfying. it's kind of wet the whistle for us to go out in 2022 and do some more shows and stuff and just reconnect, not only with fans, but also with ourselves as a live unit.
And I'm curious, did you have a discussion among the band of not doing this album because people will start thinking of you as a covers band?
No, because we had done so many original albums before.
Right.
And again, the pandemic dictated the record.
Yeah.
Again, it was a situation of we were going to start an original record. We had a few songs that we were starting with. We were doing an original album. And the pandemic came along. We started a basic track session without half the band.
Yeah.
And we soon realized that we were going to have trouble trying to pull these songs together without rehearsals. It's just the way we've always worked. We've brought songs in, we kind of run them down live in rehearsal room, which is here.
Yeah.
And kind of, that would tell us how we're going to do this song. And then we would cut it, and we would always cut it with Dave, our bass player, on bass, me on drums, at least one guitar, and we build it up from there. But we didn't have that bass because of the pandemic. So there were a lot of missing pieces here. And we just felt, when we did the first session, we started fooling around with some cover songs. So we're like, we're more comfortable with doing this right now. And it was a project that was kind of on the back burner. We had thought about it for a while, really so we could do some special shows, some special live gigs in theaters and kind of stuff like that. And just another way to kind of, go out and play. So that drew us, it spurred us on to do this album at this time.
All right. So are you thinking in terms of the next original batch of music that you're going to do?
Yeah, the next recording, absolutely. Well, actually, that's not exactly true because Mark Gem Records has been doing these Gem Records Celebrates records. Right. This collection of various artists. So we're actually in the middle of another one of those right now.
And who are you celebrating?
I can't say. It has
top secret. Okay.
Thumbs the word, but it'll be good.
I'm sure.
But we have these songs on the back burner, and the originals now. What's interesting about doing a project like Dig, where we've kind of gone back and explored our roots and explored our history and what drove us to be in music. And then, like I say, having those songs come through us again, they leave a residue, they leave something behind. And now our next album will be on the back of this Dig record. So it's almost like a reset button. And we can say, okay, where do we go from here now? And we just did Lie, Beg, Borrow, and Steal. Maybe we want to do something, kind of in that vein. Or I really don't know what's going to come next other than the few songs we've already written. But I do know that they're going to be influenced by this. Yeah.
Well, one thing, I got to say, the 60s, there just seems to be an endless fascination with the 60s and the music scene in general. I don't know if you've seen the new Velvet Underground film that's just been released. There's a film called Last Night in Soho. It takes place in England, kind of half in the 60s, half now. It's happening all the time. So you're definitely mining a thing that it's, for some reason, even in 2021, people are somewhat obsessed with. Can you explain it?
Yeah, I can actually, because I remember choosing this music back when we were all younger, all of us, including you.
Yes, there was a time.
On the time we were making those choices, and here were the bands of the day, synthesizers and heavy metal and spandex and all these things that were like, no, I don't, not feeling that. And then you get a record that you found, in a flea market, and it's exploding with creativity and melody and like, wow, and energy. And you're just like, oh man, that's what I connect to. So that was like the initial reason to find our way into this music. But, we can't help but be in the 2020s. Yep. And I always felt that our music needs to be a part of the present. And that is also part of the reason why we did Dig, because we wanted to take this music and cast it in 2020, 2021, and make it modern as we can with our studio technique. And so that's really what we're all about. We're almost like, take a time machine, take a band, pluck them out of 1967, 8, put them into 2021. That's kind of what we've always wanted to do. You know, skip disco, skip all that stuff, and just take this vibe, bring it in here, take the world around you, reflect that through that lens, and you have an album like Trip Around the Sun, which we put out a few years ago.
Cool.
You know,
Fantastic.
we've always.
So do you tour much outside of the States?
We have in the past. We've had issues with label support sometimes.
Right.
Great label last decade in Rainbow Quartz Records. They were flying us everywhere. Right. So we were doing tours of Europe and things, and we never got to your country.
Yeah. There's always time. We're still here.
Yeah. Really hard because you got to get the demand to get out there, and
understood.
That's the big hurdle unless we decide on a real vacation out of this, you know. But yeah, I mean,
good place for a vacation.
We've done lots of different things, and when the opportunities come, we're there to do them.
Cool. All righty. Well, thanks for taking time to talk to me about the record, and hope everything happens as it should. And come on down if you get a chance. I'd love to hear this stuff in as a club. All righty.
I appreciate the support and the space to talk about it.
My pleasure. Have a great day.